Hello everyone. So recently the government, and this is for the last few years, but particularly now the mainstream media all of a sudden are very interested in this. And that's to do with downsizing. And now what the state is arguing a lot on the public broadcast, the RT, there's far too many elderly people living in big houses that they own, that they built themselves. I know a man in 81, I'm going to tell you the story, and I was just talking to him, literally when I was going home there. I'm just literally in the door from work. And I was talking to him, he's 81. His wife unfortunately passed away 10 years ago. He built his house that he owns in his land that he owns. He built his house. He built it by himself and his brothers. Why? And I was just asking him, would he ever give up his house for, say, they came along, the state said, oh, here's €2 million or something like that. Because there's 3 bedrooms in his house and he's only himself. His wife, as I say, passed away 10 years ago. And he had a spare bedroom in case your relatives came to stay, etc., etc. But as he said to me, he built it himself. He built it them. He paid. He got a loan from the bank in the 80s, and he paid it off and all that. And he owns his own house. So why should he give it up now? I know he's 81, and I know a lot of people probably would say, including the state, that they're just pretty much want older people to drop dead. To be totally honest, and that seems to be the argument of the state. We want to get rid of elderly people. Elderly people are a nuisance. They're no benefit to society. That's what we're hearing from the state and the public broadcast at the moment. That elderly people are no good. We should just push them into homes and leave them there to rot. And that seems to be the argument of the state and the public broadcaster. And I know what people would say, it would leave a lot of room for young people, young Irish people like myself, in getting a house or something like that for a family of an Irish person might take, for example. That's all well and good, but at the same time, you can't force out the people. As I say, that man 81, he worked all his life to build that house and to pay off that house. In the 80s and stuff when times were tough, but money went, as he said to me today, money went further. He could, as he said, if he was a young lad growing up now, he couldn't do it. He was able to get a loan. He had a decent enough job. He was able to pay it off. He was able to get it all paid off by the 2000, by the beginning of this century, the 2000s. And that's very good. No young person could do that nowadays. In less than 15 years, he was able to pay off all the debt he owned, all the debt he had to the house. Nobody could do that nowadays. But anyway, that's the precise story. But just taking a stab at that old man, I even know many older people whose husbands have died, unfortunately, or their wife has died, and they have 2 or 3 bedrooms. And why should they give it up? And the majority of people who probably would get the house, if the state did do something like that, take us have an elderly person downsizes. The people would not be Irish people, they'd be taken from Timbuktu, coming in here getting free houses, of elderly people who worked all their life to build these houses. And so I don't agree with it. Unless an elderly person is willing, like is generally willing, I don't think we should pressurise them. Because what's happening at the moment, we're nearly guilting them to drop dead. And that's really the way I see it. And I know some people disagree with me, and that's democracy. But the way the public broadcaster was talking about the OT last night, prime time, they're really much just saying elderly people are nuisance, they should drop dead as quick as possible. That's more or less what I'm hearing. And it's the same in Irish society. We see with elderly people, nobody cares for them. The state doesn't care for them. They're leaving them to rot in their houses. No such thing as care for them. Maybe an hour or two a day, in some cases 10 minutes a day for an elderly person that's in the 80s and the 90s of house assistance, care assistance. That's all, 10 minutes a day. So the state just wants them to drop dead and be done with it, pretty much. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. And your man that I know is 81. He would say the same thing. He gets, I think it's only 30 minutes a week of care assistance, like somebody to come in and maybe clean up the dishes or do something for him, But he has to look after himself. There's no such thing as somebody else coming to look after him. But it takes, but God, he's still able to do it. Other people unfortunately can't do it in 81. But what as I say, there's no such thing as support for him. There's no such thing as the Irish state coming and saying to him, "What can we do for you? Can we give you help? What can we help you with?" There's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as the Irish state saying, "Oh, we're going to look after you. You worked all your life. Paying your way. You built a house." There's no such thing as the state coming along saying, "Oh, we're going to give you a hand," nothing like that. But what I'm trying to say is we can't do that. We simply cannot force elderly people who built their house. Again, it's different when somebody owns their house. It'd be different if somebody went to the house, take example. But I think in general too, we shouldn't be pressurising people, because again, this is going to turn into a thing where we're trying to blame people who have bigger houses, right? Not rich people, but again, elderly people who have built their house, own house. Whatever about if you're renting the house and stuff like that, you could argue to the cows come home about that, because you don't own your own property. But I don't think forcing people to give up their own property that they built themselves or they bought is right. Even though they could have 6 or 7 bedrooms, whatever the story may be, If you own your own property, you own it. If they're willing to give it up and rent it out to somebody, that's a different story. But again, what I seen from the public broadcast on primetime last night, I seen clips of it online. It seems to be more pressure, and they're trying to blame more or less elderly people for the problems of society nowadays. And the problem is that we're bringing in far too many people. They won't admit that, but it's the truth. People are coming in, 200,000 have come in the last few years, what we know of. Maybe 300,000, 400,000, God only knows. But what I'm trying to say is we should be looking at that more than we should be looking at elderly people with 2 or 3 bedrooms. And that's just the thing. We shouldn't be really worrying about it. We should be focusing on building houses and doing up houses that are abandoned. There's loads of houses. I think there was a survey done in Cavan, just take for example. There's over 400 houses or something like that just boarded up that could be redone and redone up. But again, we're standing on our hands and we're not doing anything about it. There's 400 houses right there, but there's no effort to do anything about it. So, there's no point crying about, a few people with a bedroom and stuff like that. But that's just my opinion. I know some people have different opinions. But I don't agree with it, to be totally honest. I don't agree with it. Unless they're willing to give it up. That's the thing. No, because again, what I'm seeing is what's going to happen. That elderly people be forced to do it. It's the same in Canada. There was a veteran of the Canadian Army who wanted the chairlift for those stairs, right, because of the 2-story house. And you think the Canadian government, their local government in that area of Canada, you think they would say, yes, 100% we will help you with that, we will fund it for you, for your service to Canada. They pretty much told an elderly person, you want to really go to the next life, pretty much. That's pretty much what they said to them. We can help you, be euthanized, pretty much. Which is a very nice thing to say, I'm sure, to people. Obviously, being sarcastic is an awful thing to say to an elderly person with just a simple request. It's not like she was asked for the moon out and stars. But again, that's the Western world. We have no respect for it. I was brought up, and a lot of people my age, we were brought up to respect the elderlies, to respect the elders. And unfortunately, that's all gone out the window. That's all long gone with the sheep. And it's a terror to see. But again, we should have this. Of course, we should have this discussion. Of course. But I think trying to pressurise people that we should bring in laws to force elderly people into nursing homes so other people can get their houses. I don't think we should do that, and I think any sane society would agree with that. So let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.